Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel for Peacefully Wired. My name is Matt, aka Peacefully Wired, your OCD coach. In this video, I wanted to talk about conditional acceptance and how if you have conditional acceptance as an OCD sufferer, then you will not recover from OCD. And I'm going to use an example of a documentary that I recently watched that I've only gotten halfway through because my wife was appalled at the behavior of the men that were being featured in the documentary. It's called Manosphere, and it's basically about this nonsense idea that there are alpha males, and the guys in the documentary were all heavy influencers on social media that have a ridiculous way of conditionally looking at life and how a man should behave. Before I go any further, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think about the content. What kind of content would you like to see? And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me, please email support@peacefullywired.com, and I can show you what working with me would look like. So this documentary is called Manosphere. It's by Louis Theroux, and it is extremely interesting. And I've heard that this was going on out in the ether, right? I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of social media. I don't follow a lot of people. The only time I'm really on social media is to make content, um, and I do watch some content by others, but for the most part, I really don't spend that much time on it, and I definitely don't spend my time looking at this type of content. And so basically, you've got and it's I haven't gotten all the way through it. So there's about three influencers that he initially talks to, and their whole outlook on life is that there's a certain way that a man is supposed to behave that is dominant, that is basically a misogynist. And a lot of these guys would say, well, I love women, how can I be a misogynist? Well, you can love being physical with a woman and still be a misogynist. Okay, I mean, just because you love women's appearance and the way they make you feel and having intercourse with a woman does not mean that you love women. It means you enjoy them um, for that use that you think that they have in the world, right? And it was very clear the way that these guys treated any woman that they were involved with, that they have absolutely no respect for women. And the to be perfectly honest, it's all an act, right? These guys, behind the scenes, we have no idea what the behavior is like, okay? But really, at the end of the day, you've got a bunch of scared little boys, okay, who feel like, who probably didn't get paid a lot of attention when they were younger. They were probably dorks and nerds, which there's nothing wrong with being a nerd. Nerds are running the world right now, right? There's nothing wrong with being a nerd. Okay, there's nothing wrong with being someone who's book centered, who's awkward, who has a hard time socially. I would put myself in that category. I was very socially awkward, probably mostly due to having OCD. I had a lot of stuff I didn't really know what to deal with at a young age. So relationships were very hard for me, whether they be romantic or with just guys or just girls as friends. With my family, with just people in general, communicating was very hard. I used to have a really hard time looking people in the eye. So I understand what it's like to be awkward. I did not grow up to be uh, someone who behaves like this, though, because I didn't adopt these set of beliefs because I don't believe them. And I'm not deep down inside afraid of the world and being seen a certain way. And these guys are, right? A lot of people look at the way this behavior is. I'm a dominant male. I make a lot of money. I tell my woman what's what. I tell her when we have sex. I tell her what's going down in the relationship. I'm in control all the time. I'm the dominant one. And that's not strength. That's fear. That is the fear. That's a conditional acceptance of themselves. They cannot accept themselves if they are not X, Y, and Z. If they are those things, then they can heavily accept themselves. They can accept life. They can accept other people that are like them. Essentially, though, that people that aren't like them, okay, they will not accept and they will look down upon. And that's not a way to live life, in my opinion. And that's a scared way to live life. Again, you see a lot of men in the world who are ruled by fear, and fear comes out as it's this strength, but it's really they're operating on fear. And fortunately for people that don't have OCD, there's a lot of people that can get a lot of shit done with fear as their driver. And you see a lot of people, I would say there's a really high percentage of people that are very successful or even dominating in their industry or in their field or whatever it might be, that are driven by fear, the fear of conditional acceptance, right? Not being able to accept themselves or being accepted by people if they're not seen as this thing. And they're always chasing the next thing to get to a certain level so that they can feel good about themselves. It's essentially it's conditional self-esteem, right? They can't have self-esteem and feel good about themselves unless they're always doing this something, unless they're always being seen as this person, right? And they can't have they only have conditional acceptance for other people. So usually these types of people are extremely lonely. Okay, and a lot of people for some reason look up to this. This is not strength. Strength is a man who has a family and takes care of that family. That's strength, because that's hard to do. It's not typically hard to be a single man who says that money is the only thing and living a certain lifestyle is the only way to be a man. And if you're anything less than that, then somehow you're not a man. Well, the marker of a man is having a dick and balls. Let's just be blunt about it. That's the marker. You have the chromosomes of a male, you're a male. There is no way a man is supposed to behave. But when you have people like this that believe that there is a certain way that you're supposed to behave to be a man, that is a conditional acceptance as a human being. And so as an OCD sufferer, conditional acceptance obviously is something that we have to move away from. We have to move away from that and can unconditionally accept ourselves, meaning we can accept ourselves. We can want to be the guy that has the good body, that has the nice car, has money, and has the girl, right? We can prefer to be that, but to have that as a condition of our life and our worth and our value as a human is set on that is a disaster, right? And these guys are young guys. You'll see, if you follow them for the rest of their lives, you'll see. I don't know this 100%, but I would gather that along the line later in their lives, you will definitely see probably a shift either in their beliefs, and if they don't shift in their beliefs, you're going to see some very older, angry. They're just going to get angry as they go. They're already angry young men, again, because they were probably young men. Guys like Andrew Tate, okay, Tiki Talkie, these guys were most likely quite picked on and bullied. I mean, all you have to do is go back and look at old Andrew Tate stuff, and you can see the guy was, a dorky, nerdy guy. And it's like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's thinking that there's something wrong with that, and then like shifting into this act. You watch these guys, when I watch guys like this, all I have to do is listen to how they talk, watch their behavior, okay, watch how they're interacting with people. It's all an act based on a belief. If there was a more brainwashed person in the world than these guys, I could only point to like people that are involved in cults and deeply religious people that are extremely indoctrinated into a way of thinking, and they believe they have to act this way. And you can see when you watch these guys, that's not really who they are. I don't know who they are. They don't know who they are, right? But you look at them and you watch their behavior, and they're putting on a show. It's not really, probably maybe even how they want to behave, but they feel like they have to behave that way because they feel like that's the only way that people are going to accept them. They feel like it's the only way they can get a girl. You've got guys in this documentary saying women really like it when you talk down to them and when you are mean to them, when you dominate them. It's like, women do like men that are confident and take charge, but you can be a confident, strong man and not talk down to a woman and not make a woman feel like she's less than you, bringing other women into the relationship and like making them be okay with that to even be able to have your affection. That's not strength. That is an absolute fear-based weakness. Let me put on this show. Let me behave this way so I can get views and likes and make money and put on this act so that people will essentially think that I'm this person. And again, when you watch these guys talk, it's an act. It's a full on, they might as well be in a movie because they're acting as though they think that that's how they should behave. And you see it in a lot of people. outside of just in real life, right? You can, like, the way some people talk. I was getting a sandwich the other day, and I was listening to these two guys talk to each other, and there's an aspect of their culture, that is flamboyant, and the way that they talk, the lingo and stuff like that. But there's also an element that is just put on, right? It's just, they just ham it up, and they feel like they have to behave this way. Where you see people like this, and you're like, tone it down a little bit. You don't need to be at this level. Like, you don't need this attention. You don't need people looking at you. You don't need people hearing what you're saying. You don't need to feel like you're important. You need to be important to yourself, and that's it. No one else needs to know that you're important, because that is unconditional acceptance. I don't need anybody to validate that I'm an important human being. And people argue like, "Oh, you need to feel important." I don't need that. I don't, and I want to move as far away from needing to feel important in my life, because that is a trap, in my opinion. Okay, I am important. I don't need people to validate me. I don't need to remind myself that I'm important. I just behave as though I am an important person, not to this like degree of like, I take precedent over people, but I'm important. I'm just as important as anybody else. And if you don't think you're important, I think you're important. I don't care if you're, a lonely person who has a million cats and you don't think anybody loves you. I love you. I think you're important. Everybody's important. We're equally important. I don't care. There's not one more person that's more important. There's somebody that's important to everybody. And again, if you don't think you're important, I think you're important. So, yeah, this type of stuff is a disaster for people that have OCD. Unconditional acceptance. There's no way you're supposed to behave if you're a man. Okay, if you got the stuff that shows you're a man, you're a man. Okay, we could get into all the stuff about trans and stuff like that. That's not a route I want to go down. That's a whole different other thing. If you're born a man, that's a marker that you're a man. There's no way that you're supposed to behave to be a man. You can be any type of man that you want to be. You can be strong without having to be dominant, and you can accept yourself and others without having to live up to these markers, right? So if you're falling into these traps and you're watching these guys and you're modeling your life, or you're feeling, this is also where a lot of like depression and anxiety is coming from, because it's in the women's world too. There are women that boss babes, right? I haven't really seen a lot of their stuff. I've only heard through my coaches who talk about this stuff all the time, right? There are women out there too. Oh, you don't need a man. We can do life without a man, and it's all about it's all about the alpha male stuff to the other side, to the feminine side, right? There's balance in everything. We need each other. Okay, I'm not saying you need a man or you need a woman to have a happy life, but there is a definite benefits in having a person of the opposite sex, or of the same sex, if that's what you're into in your life, right? There's benefits of having somebody on your side. So this way where we're on these two extremes, where we're got both sides that are like pushing really hard. One is like, I love women, but I'm going to treat them like garbage. And then you've got the other side where like, well, we don't even need men at all. It's like, well, I mean, it's nonsense, right? So unconditional acceptance is so important, especially if you have OCD. And again, if you're watching people like this, what I was going to is, this is why you have a lot of depression and anxiety happening right now, because we've got these stuffs being pushed out on social media, where people, guys and girls alike, are watching these people and they're feeling like they have to live up to these standards, and they either don't want to, or they feel like they can't, or they're trying it and it's not working, whatever. And you've got a lot of people that are feeling awful about themselves because of conditional acceptance. And it's going to get worse and worse, all right, until we wake up and start to understand like unconditional acceptance is probably the best way for anybody. I don't care if you have OCD or not. It's the best way to look at life, accepting yourself unconditionally, no matter what, accepting life, no matter what, and accepting other people, no matter what. And yes, I mean, no matter what, you can accept. These guys in this video, one of them was talking, if my son was gay, I would disown him. My son can't be gay. My son can't be gay. It's like, that's not a world that I want to live in. People are gay and they're not going away. And, having that type of attitude towards homosexuality, whether it's a man or a woman, is like I said, I'll say it again. These these boys are very scared inside, and they're living their lives in fear, right? Not the way that an OCD person is living in fear. They're living in a fear mentality that they are projecting as strength. They are using this fear to drive them into this direction, and it's masquerading as strength. And that's not strength, okay? Living your life where the only way to be a man is this one way and everyone else is dog shit is just, it's absolutely conditional, and it's a fear-based thing. It's they can't accept themselves unless they're this thing, which is a sad place to be, quite frankly. If you can't accept yourself as a human being, no matter what you're doing, that doesn't mean that you, I mean, I'm not saying like, look, if you're someone who has no goals and wants to do nothing in your life except hang out, all right, accept yourself. I'm not saying that that's acceptance, though. Like, if you're someone who has goals and you're driven and you want to do those things, but you can accept yourself without being this thing, without ever getting to this level that is imaginary, right? You can still try and have goals. Maybe you don't meet them. Maybe you have a goal that's up here and you only get here. No matter how hard you try, you only get to here. There's nothing wrong with that. We're being told that there's something wrong with that. We're being told that your value is about how much you achieve, right? And it's incorrect, in my opinion, right? If your value is on what you achieve in life, uh, that equals a lot of people that shouldn't think that they are good human beings. And we know that there are a lot of people out there that aren't owning multi-billion-dollar companies, aren't famous, aren't, having these amazing careers, and they're running families, and they're providing for them the best that they can. And these people aren't curled up in a ball thinking that they don't have a value as a human being. So the conditional acceptance of having to be this certain thing to be a human, to be a good human, right? We're going back to there are no good or bad people. Are no good or bad humans. You're a human that does good things. You're a human that does bad things. And if you're rating yourself by the things that you do in life, you'll forever be conditional, and you won't recover from OCD. Right? You don't want to rate yourself at all. Sometimes you do good things, sometimes you do bad things, but you can always accept yourself. And you can accept yourself if you're not an alpha male, if you're not, dominating, if you don't have 5 girlfriends and a wife on the side, or whatever you want to have, right? You don't have to be that to be a man. And girls, again, you don't have to be a model. You don't have to live up to the standards of whatever's happening on that side. Again, I don't pay attention to a lot of this stuff. This documentary just was in a lot of ways appalling to me, but also funny for me to watch, because I mean, wow, I just kept saying wow, wow, wow. This stuff that these guys would say just blew my mind. And I know it exists, but I'd never seen it up in that up that close. And of course, Louis Theroux could be, a documentary is from a certain point of view, but when you're seeing something like this, it's obviously nonsense. There's no way that you could show that to me that I would think, oh, there's a spin. These guys are actually really down to earth. No, these guys, look, they're not bad guys. They just have a belief system that's fueling this behavior, which you could say is bad or good behavior, but it's fueling this ridiculous outlook on life that's extremely conditional. And the whole point of this video is to let you know that's not a way to live life. I don't care how much money they show you that they have, how they might woke up woke up one morning or wake up every morning and there's $6,000 more in their bank account. Like, that doesn't equal happiness. That doesn't equal contentment, right? Money does make things easier, but you can still be a dipshit and be wealthy, right? And be a miserable person who lives in fear all the time, always needing to project this image. And that's not a fun place to be. I'd rather accept myself for my limitations and still do the best I can, while always knowing that I'm trying to do my best. And even if I'm not doing my best, I can still accept myself, right? Doesn't mean I don't want to have goals. Doesn't mean I give up on life. It means I can accept myself as a human, for my good, for my bad, across the board. That's where peace lies. That's where contentment lies. And that's where you want to be if you have OCD. So I appreciate you watching the video. Again, support at peacefullywired.com if you want to know what working with me one-on-one looks like. We're launching our school, SKOOL, OCD community very shortly. It's going to be a place to get very in-depth content, much like what I'm putting out here, but a lot of stuff pertains to how to recover from OCD. Lots of stuff's going to be in there, lives with me, new content all the time. We're uploading tons of hours of content right now, and that's going to be launching very soon. So if you're interested in that, please let me know, and I can get you information about that. So again, like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think about the content. And as always, see you later.